We're not live yet, are we? Are we live now? Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this meeting of the Staffordshire Sustainability Board. Two-part meeting today. First part is our public meeting. This is the third one we've had since we set up the Sustainability Board in 2022. And really welcome to anybody that's watching this online, either live or after the event. Hopefully you'll get a flavour here of the work that the County Council, the districts, and other partners are doing together to help us to reach our goals on sustainability, whether that's in the county's point of view of a net zero target by 2050, or other councils have different ones for their organisation or for their districts as a whole. So I think we've had a really busy year since we last had a public meeting. We've been looking at energy efficiency. We've been looking at and meeting with our partners from health, from the Integrated Care Board. We've been talking about how we're going to kickstart possibly taxi decarbonisation. We've been looking at planning for net zero. And the point of the Sustainability Board is that it's a clearing shop for items that then go back to the constituent councils for decisions. And that may be on electric vehicles, that may be on taxi decarbonisation, it may be on planning. And we've certainly sent a lot back to councils to get them to agree it, integrate it, and begin to implement it as well into their net zero targets. So I'll just bring the the Vice Chair in, Nigel, if you want to add anything before we go on to further introductions.
Right, okay, yes, thank you, Simon. In some respects, you've stolen a lot of my thunder on what I was going to say, but the Staffordshire Sustainability Board has proven to be a perfect forum for bringing together multiple agencies, both within the councils and within the districts and boroughs which we have, as well as county, but also the government agencies and non-governmental agencies who've got a stakehold and certainly a carbon footprint, which we need to sort of address if we're going to meet our collective national and international commitments to climate change targets. And one of the things which I certainly realised at the very early days is that if the 9, 10, if we include the county districts and boroughs, tried to have those meetings and to get those agencies together, it would be very difficult. For example, if we wanted to get a landowner, say the National Health Service, who've come here and done a presentation on what they're doing with their estate and their landholding. If we wanted to do that with the districts and boroughs, that's potentially 20 meetings a year, which is unsustainable, and it's not fair to expect that. So this form of the Staffordshire Sustainability Board allows those meetings to take place at a reasonably high level. It allows that information to be disseminated not just to county but the districts and boroughs, and it allows then individual officers to make contact to discuss individual issues with their districts and boroughs to take it forward. And if nothing else, that achievement of this Sustainability Board to be that multiple agency forum to discuss things is an absolute bonus and priority for it. The other side is obviously the management of our waste responsibilities, both in the point of view of the districts and boroughs who've got responsibilities for collection and local household recycling, and the county's broader responsibilities with the way that waste is treated and managed on a more macro scale. And that's incorporated in it, and that's the second part of the Sustainability Board work. And I think together we certainly are stronger, not to want to be too cliched on that, but there's also an element that we learn off one another. And one of the things which we'll be going through a little bit later is what individual districts and boroughs have been doing. Every district and borough who's making that presentation will be waiting and hanging on to other districts and boroughs and saying either, ha, we beat you, or, ooh, I think we better do that by the time it comes around to the next presentation, which can only ever be good, only ever be good. So yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Nigel. Also, welcome to Zoe Robertson and Julian Wolford from the Staffordshire Climate Commission. We're coming on to you later in the agenda. But first, I'd like to just go around the room for Cabinet members to introduce themselves. Obviously, I'll start with, on this side, start with Newcastle Borough Council.
Yeah, my name's David Hutchison. I'm the Cabinet Member for the Sustainable Environment at the Council. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And then to Stafford.
Ian Fordham, Cabinet Member Environment.
Okay. And
Tony
then
Pearce.
Sorry, you.
Tony Pearce, Cabinet Member for Climate Action and Nature Recovery.
Okay, thank you. Sitting in a different place, you see. I didn't see you over there. And then Lichfield.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. Janice Sylvester Hall, Cabinet Member for Climate Change and Ecology, as well as a couple of other things, just to keep me even more busy. And if I can just send on apologies as well for Councillor Phil Whitehouse, who would have been here this afternoon, and he's covering operational services and waste management.
We're currently waiting for a representative from Tamworth. We believe they're coming, but may be delayed. We believe that South Staff's representative, there was a bit of a cabinet change going on there, so they don't officially have a cabinet member at the moment, which is unfortunate. And I believe we've got apologies from Stoke City Council's representatives as well. And there may be another one on there as well. I think I've covered them all there, but we will do apologies now. If you could do the apology. Sorry. Sorry, yes. Brilliant, thank you. And then, of course, you officially introduce yourself, Nigel, as your portfolio holder role as well.
Yes, Nigel Yates. I'm Cabinet Member at Staffordshire Moorlands for Climate Change and the Environment.
And I'm the County Council's Cabinet Member for Climate Change, Environment and Infrastructure. So we'll now go to the apologies form for official.
Thank you, Chair. We've received apologies from Councillor Atkins, Staffordshire Moorlands, Councillor Wilson, Cannock, Councillor Wazir, Stoke, Councillor Turner, Tamworth, and Councillor Whitehouse, Lichfield.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to our item 2 then, which is that district and borough review and county review relating to the activity since we last met publicly. Of course, we don't have a number of the portfolios here, so we will move over those slides and just concentrate on those that are here at the moment. If Tamworth arrive before the end of this section, we'll go back to them. But if you could put start the first one, of course, Cannock. We don't have anybody from Cannock Chase, so the second one, East Staffs. Over to you.
I haven't really anything to add other than what's there, but we're moving on apace and with a lot of interesting things coming forward.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Lichfield.
Okay, thank you. I'll pick up both of these elements in the absence of Councillor Whitehouse as well. There is a significant amount of work that sort of is conveyed on here, but it doesn't necessarily reflect some of that background to it. And I would anticipate that that would be the same for the majority of people sat here as well. The internal carbon reduction plan, especially, that is now active and very much guiding the decarbonisation of council assets and services. Just putting together that list in the first instance was a piece of work. And that also links into the third bullet point there, which is with regards to the carbon dashboard, which is now also a live and very much active piece of reporting that's taken place on the Lichfield District Council web pages. At the moment, that covers 21 and 22 data, with 23 due to be uploaded by the end of the year. In the middle there, we've got the Habitat Havens and the Relaxed Mowing campaign. We've had a significant amount of buy-in from the local community who have volunteered suitable places to be able to do those, and those are also being publicly reported on Lichfield District Council's webpage for the carbon reduction and a number of other aspects as well, which I think is proving effective in letting the community know especially what work has been done to date. The second part on there, just to pick up some of the waste and recycling parts, we've had a 10.5% increase in fuel efficiency, which has been achieved through the driver behaviour training and vehicle telematics. The recycling dashboard Now, again, I would anticipate that that's something that's probably shared amongst the community as well, is one that residents have been particularly keen on wanting to know that information being publicly reported as well. And then we've got our investment from the waste fleet and the greener fleet of 27 that have been put on order. We're just waiting the governance sign-off to finish those. And then finally, we're just on the cusp of doing a full ramped-up launch on the Recycle for Good campaign. And you'll see that we've got a significant amount of work that's been in engagement with schools for those, as well as videos that we can put on various platforms to encourage further recycling and that campaign with gusto. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next one. This is Newcastle Borough. David.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. You have the report in front of you. There's 4 main sections. Section 1, net zero. If I can just read out one item in each section. We've transitioned 6 light vehicles to electric. We're now trialling electric mowers, and we've increased the use of HVO. We've now had our first full year of HVO. In the natural environment and biodiversity section, we recycled 53% of items collected in the last quarter, and the residual was 47%. We have been changing bins to increase clean recycling in the flats. Next section, we've begun training all staff in carbon literacy. The majority of the corporate leadership team and the Cabinet have been trained. Remaining corporate leadership team and Cabinet members will be trained shortly, and it will then be rolled out into all other members. The final section, we've planted 29,599 trees as part of the borough's tree planting strategy. We used to have the rural planting strategy and the urban planting strategy. They've now been combined into the borough planting strategy. As you will see at the bottom of the report, the calculation for carbon emissions is down 35% since the last time we calculated. We've been collecting data since 2009. We declared the climate emergency in 2019, and our carbon reduction is down at 68% since that data started being collected.
Thank you, David. Next up on is South Staffs, who are not here today, but the slide is there. So on to Stafford Borough. Who's first? Anthony.
Thank you, yes. So, beginning with the climate change action, and Councillor Fordham's going to talk about the waste strategy. So, as you'll see there, we're now sourcing all our electricity from sustainable green sources. We're heavily involved with Staffordshire Wildlife Trust in the Stafford Brooks project, which is tackling a number of sites in the borough, some of them are local nature reserves, to make them better in terms of biodiversity than they are at the moment. We've also had a number of sites in the borough which have benefited from the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust's Next Door Nature project. So small areas in different locations that have been neglected and that are now have been improved both for nature and for people. You'll see also that we have the installation of solar panels about to take place on our swimming pool, our leisure centre, I should say, which will result in a substantial saving of energy and water and so on. I just want to mention 1 or 2 other things, though, which are not down in the report, which I think are important. One is that we are in the process of establishing a strategy for tackling climate change within the council itself, and that will involve a structure for monitoring it as well. Secondly, we have a mowing, sowing and growing strategy, which is about to go through the process of being approved by the council, which again should mean that we'll have a more biodiverse estate. And finally, we do have a citizens panel, volunteers, who help us to do what we are doing in terms of tackling climate change. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I'm going to deviate somewhat from the bullet points on the slide and add some new information that might be of interest. I shan't comment at all on the first bullet point, Ray landfill, as I believe happily that applies to all authorities here. So last year we made 4.2 million curbside collections, 99.95% of which were completed successfully first time. And a further improvement plan has now been implemented, setting a higher target. The number of collections missed by crews are thus showing a positive trend, with 23-24 figures showing a decrease of 21% compared with the previous year. Also, the number of containers not returned correctly to their designated collection points has shown an improvement of 12% over the year. We're striving to improve recycling rates with anti-contamination campaigns targeted to areas where the contamination has been noted, often areas with communal bins. Nevertheless, the recycling rate appears to remain above the average, as noticed in performance reporting later in the meeting. Also, in partnership with the collector, Veolia, we've recently launched a street kind campaign aimed at promoting positive public behaviour and attitudes towards crews. This has resulted in reports from crews of more incidents, more near misses, but we feel it's helping us safeguard the emotional and physical well-being of the collection teams. And a final point, Veolia, with council support, has been supporting the local community by providing food donations, charity donations, and plants and trees for local schools. I think the final bullet point applies to all, so I'm going to leave that without further comment, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on. That brings us to the county councils, and since we declared our climate emergency in 2019, we've successfully reduced our carbon footprint by over 50%, and this has been achieved through various initiatives such as the rollout of hydrogenated vegetable oil for our fleet across key services, and we've saved 146 tonnes of carbon in the past year alone. Our continued focus on energy efficiency has resulted in a 4% reduction in electricity consumption across corporate properties and an even more impressive 14% reduction in schools. Additionally, our work with partners in the private sector has been ongoing on the rollout of the electric vehicle infrastructure through a new strategy, which is moving forward with a solid business plan. We've secured government funding, and we have now started the rollout of charging points across the county in a plan that will lead to more by 2028 as per the strategy. On the waste management front, our recycling schemes have gained national recognition. Programmes like Medicycle, TechCycle and PaintCycle are not only reducing waste, but are also making positive impacts on our community. For example, through Medicycle, over 500 medical care items have been collected, refurbished and reused, and this initiative has been shortlisted for Campaign of the Year by the National Recycling Awards. Similarly, TechCycling has saved over 10,000 items of IT equipment, and PaintCycle has produced over 15,000 litres of leftover paint to local communities and community groups. We're working towards a net zero county, and this morning I took through our circular economy strategy through the County Council's Cabinet, which sets us up on course to achieve that, and look forward to working with district and borough colleagues on that, and also other partners to roll out that circular economy over the next few years for our county. Our Climate Change Fund is now in its 5th year, and the last 4 years the Staffordshire County Council has supported 457 projects with over 267,000 going out to help local communities adapt to renewable energy and also the new circular economy, which we are piloting, as I say. And this is led by county councillors. Each county councillor in their division has £1,500 a year to put into these schemes. Information on that is available on the County Council's website, and please, if you know any organisations that could benefit from that, community groups, church halls, all sorts of community groups can qualify for that, and that money can be well used to help them meet every individual organisation's aims of getting to net zero. So that's the County Council's report. So we'll move on now to the Staffordshire Moorlands one. Nigel.
Yes, thank you. And apologies for this slide, really. It's very hard to fit such a broad subject on one slide. I was canvassing to see if we could have 20 slides in a PowerPoint, but I was overruled. What we've done is that highlighted in the centre is work. I mean, what's been very important for Staffordshire Moorlands, and I'm sure it is for everybody, is to make sure that there's leadership from the actual hierarchy of the district council. So climate change is embedded now within the corporate plan. We have got a very successful climate change working group which acts as a scrutiny for some of the council decisions and in fact pre-scrutinises, sort of helps to feed in the input. And what it also does, which is very important, is it looks at the non-core council activities, so the things which we can't influence and sort out ourselves. A little bit like I was saying with the Staffordshire Sustainability Board, bringing outside bodies in, that's what we do through the working group. It's a cross-party group and it's working very, very successfully, and they certainly hold me to account. The council is now carbon literate to bronze. We aspire for better, but there's quite a few hurdles to go, but we certainly are working towards that. And climate change is embedded within the council induction as well. So putting the council house in order from certainly a strategy point of view, we come on to the other areas. We're obviously an influencer when it comes to planning and adaptation, risk register, building control and things like that. We are very actively pursuing waste strategies. We're very proud of the fact that we do not charge for green waste, which I know is a decision which councils have to make, and as a consequence our recycling rates are very high in the county, and we want to keep them high and we want to improve. And one of the things which we've learned from the Staffordshire Sustainability Board is that you've done a very good job with your household waste and recycling centres, and yesterday, as it happens, we had a meeting with the chief executive with your waste officers, Gemma and Emma, came to us, and we are looking at reintroducing recycling points within council buildings and also on some of the council car parks, which was something which has been lost in the past. But we want to do something different. You know, we want to augment what's happening at the household waste and recycling centres. So we want clever and innovative ideas which not only recycle and not only potentially reuse, but actually raise the profile and make people think why. Because that's the important thing, is the education side on that. On the nature side, we're working very closely with the Staffordshire Wildlife Trust. We've employed a dedicated biodiversity officer. We've done a nature declaration. We've created a plan for nature. We're aiming quite practically for the 30 for 30 and are making plans for council-owned land and green spaces at the moment. So we're going to public consultation by the end of this month on the first 6 large sites which we're looking to change over. We're doing an awful lot of work on fly tipping engagement and making sure that people use registered waste collection and waste providers, and obviously having quite a portion of the Peak District National Park, we are very sensitive to wildfire and wildfire prevention. On our estate, we have created an asset plan. We've just introduced the first EV chargers, and we've targeted EV chargers to complement the Levi EV charging strategy. So we're looking at our visitor economy, which effectively is leisure centre, and the estate's going out towards the Peak District. And we're also targeting our employee car parking sites, which will also be open to residents in the overnight and evenings. We've been working to dramatically improve the energy efficiency in the offices. We've got a programme to convert everything over to LEDs. We're a little bit behind the county on that. And we're having all our doors replaced with draft-proof, well-insulated doors. We have effectively rebuilt the Leek Market. It looks exactly the same, but trust me, it's very different. It is very energy efficient now. It's got solar panels in there. We've invested £2.6 million into one of our leisure centres to have it running on. The swimming pool is acting as a heat battery. It's running off air-sourced heat pumps, but that retains heat in the building, which we can recycle. And I forgot the exact figures, but I think it's got something like 256 solar panels on top of one of our leisure centres, and we're looking to duplicate that on the other 2 leisure centres as we go. And on the community side, we are very much engaged in improving the fabric of the housing within the district, and we're pleased to announce that we've just recruited an energy officer who's just started, whose job will be to uplift their housing stock across from an energy performance point of view.
Thank you, Nigel. Moving on to the next slide is the City Council. Nobody here from the City Council, but I will say at this point that this is the first time we've had a Stoke City slide in the deck, because the City Council has now become a full member of the Sustainability Board, which is really welcome. I look forward to working with, there's an officer from Stoke here today as well, so we look forward to working with them very closely over the next few years on this agenda. And then last but not least is Tamworth Borough Council, and I believe the portfolio is there. Over to you.
Hi there. Yeah, it's my first meeting, so it's nice to see some friendly faces. Apologies for being slightly late. I got waylaid and whatever. So, and I'd just like to say, before I start on my slide, I'd just like to say a couple of words about my first impressions about what's been done across Staffordshire, because I've been looking at it, you know, as part of my portfolio. I'm just amazed at how much is actually going on. You know, when I took only took over in May, I've just been really pleasantly surprised at how much work is going on and how active we are. And I think you guys should all take a pat on the back, because I think it's really great. So I'll just kick off and go through. My slide's not that busy, but I'll just take you through some of the things we're doing at the moment. So first of all, we've hired a new full-time climate change officer to support with the delivery of our climate action and adoption plans. So he's just, or he or she's, I don't know actually who it is, I haven't met them yet, but they've been hired. We've purchased 6 electrical vehicles for our depot fleet to actually cut down on our emissions there. We're collaborating with Staffordshire Local Data Recovery Strategy with our green spaces, the green spaces we have in Tamworth. We deliver our waste management via, in partnership with Lichfield District Council, and we've been doing some deliver some driver behaviour training, which has led to a 10.5 increase in fuel efficiency across the fleet, which is good. We did ask for the tonnage, but they haven't actually given us that figure yet. But obviously there will be a tonnage available. I'll make that available to members as and when. We've also delivered a recycling dashboard, so people can actually go in and look at how well we're recycling across the borough. That's for Lichfield and for Tamworth. We've just purchased a new waste fleet consisting of 27 RCVs, which is just awaiting sign-off. But that's obviously going to make our fleet more efficient, which is great news. We've calculated the 2023 carbon baseline to inform the development of our climate action plan and climate adoption plans. We developed our social value policy to embed it into our procurement process. We've also now completed operationally the 9 operational buildings which we own audits for to assess their emissions. Looking towards getting to a net zero position. We delivered climate action workshops for internal officers and members to create an internal climate action working group to help reduce emissions across all our operations. We've developed our electric vehicle strategy using the levy funding that has now gone through Cabinet. We did try to host the Dream Energy Efficiency House, but our plans were thwarted because of the bad weather, so we had to cancel that, unfortunately, which is a bit of an up. But I think it'd be a little bit of a learning curve that we perhaps host it somewhere else that we're not so prone to weather issues. Okay, thank you very much.
That's great, thank you, and welcome to the board as well, obviously, as your first meeting. Obviously these slides are available on the website. Also, contact details for each of the portfolio holders represented around the table, whether they're here today or not, can be found via the agenda as well, and their constituent councils. So if anybody's got any questions relating who's watching this either now or after when it goes on the website as a recorded meeting, please do get in touch with your portfolio holder, either in your district, city, or me as the county portfolio holder, and we'll answer your questions. And of course, the county and the boroughs and the city's websites will keep everybody up to date on how we're moving forward on our net zero plans. But that concludes the updates from the constituent councils. The next item is a communications activity update, and this is really key to getting that agenda out there, to creating that behavioural change, and also celebrating some of the things we've been doing, some of the things we've just been talking about. And I'm going to bring in Helena now, who's going to take us through the communications update, and I believe we have a series of slides and a video to watch as well.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, everybody. I'm Helena Hornby. I'm the Head of Campaigns, Internal Comms and Social Media here at the County Council. I'm here in place of my colleague, Rose Hampton, who has been previously, who you may know. She's away on holiday, so I'll take you through the communications update that the County have been doing. Last year, we launched the carbon bubble, which you can't fail to have noticed, the big orange bubble that had the aim of helping residents to understand what a carbon footprint is and visualise what a tonne of carbon looks like and learn what they can do to reduce their own carbon footprint. Well, this year, we've taken a different approach. We wanted it to still have that really big impact, and as a colleague just mentioned from Tamworth, we had the Sustainability Dream House, and that's been designed to help people learn what they could actually do within their own homes, really some practical, visual, interactive elements to really help people understand and relate to the actions that they can take in their own homes. Just like the bubble, the Dream House is going on tour around the county into town centres. We've already done a couple of these, as well as taking it to the county show, and there'll be a little bit more on that later on. So as I say, we've had events in Stafford and Burton so far, kicked off a big green week in Burton.
Sorry, can I just say the slides are not coming up on the screen?
Oh, sorry, Liam, next slide. Yeah, that's all right. I'll just talk before you start the video. Thanks, yeah. As I say, Stafford and Burton, and kicking off Big Green Week in Burton. And unfortunately, Tamworth had to be postponed because of that adverse weather. But we did have Newcastle that went ahead on Friday. And we're in discussion with officers about potential dates for the other areas. So they're in the works. If you haven't seen it yet, or you haven't had it in your area, do have a quick look at this video, which will give you an insight into what the house is all about, what the events will look like, and give you an idea about the conversations that we're having with people about reducing their carbon footprint and reducing energy use in the home. If you would hit play, thank you, Liam.
Introducing the Sustainability Dream House, a unique and interactive way to teach people what they can do in their homes to reduce their carbon footprint and also save a little bit of money along the way. Let's take a look around. Did you know the average UK household emits 12 tonnes of carbon per year? Residential households make up 23% of Staffordshire's carbon emissions. That means if we all do our bit to make small changes, we can make a big difference. We've been having positive conversations with residents, teaching them that we all have our part to play in keeping our beautiful county clean, green and safe.
Today I have learned to minimise my usage of the energy, boil half a kettle instead of a full kettle. Little things like that.
After visiting the Sustainable Dream House today, we're going to focus a lot more on electronic vehicles, looking at a charger that's connected to solar panels.
Even making a better choice for the TV. You know, that 60-inch down to a 40-inch TV seemed to make a huge difference.
The thing that surprised me the most was how much water you can save by changing your shower head.
If you have a leaky tap, a lot of water will be wasted, like over 1 year.
I'm stood outside the Sustainable Dream House
Everything we do here is as sustainable as possible, from bringing the stand to site on a HVO powered vehicle to the materials used being 100% recyclable and made of recyclable materials. The furniture is upcycled and pre-loved, bringing you the most sustainable event we can create.
It's really useful to have this information right in front of you, and being able to go round and look at the different rooms is really helpful.
Everybody needs to do their part. People think it's a small thing, but if everybody did it together, it'd make a big difference.
It's so important that everyone tries to understand the little changes that we can all make for a better future for everybody. And yeah, I found it really, really interesting as well.
The Sustainability Dream House was really interesting to have a look round. It's full of facts, lots of information that I didn't know before. I think I'm going to use my tumble dryer a lot less. Air drying my clothes will definitely help save me some pennies.
One thing I noticed that I think I don't always do is make sure I turn down the temperature on my washing machine. Even if it is just 10 degrees lower, that can save quite a lot of energy throughout the year.
Together, let's make Staffordshire sustainable.
There you go. So I think you'll agree that's a nice insight into what the dream house looks like and what people are getting from that. We have had some really great feedback from the first couple of events. We've got our stats from that. It's been really good. We've been measuring and keeping track of that by the conversations that we've been having. We've been counting the leaflets that we give out and the promotional items. And we've done a counter. You know, like when you go to the supermarket and you get a counter to pop in a box. And we've been doing a technique like that to measure the amount of engagement that we've had with people. And just at those first two events alone, we had some really great positive conversations with over 500 people. We've now got more than 3,000 subscribers to the sustainability newsletter, which goes out with lots of little tips and practical bits of advice. And so they're people that have registered for that and showing an active interest, which is great. We've also added now to the total of people that have been directed to work out their carbon footprint with the calculator, and that's cumulatively from the carbon bubble events and these here, scanning that QR code at the events. And now 11.4 thousand people have made use of that carbon calculator. What we're getting from this data back is that people are not only being engaged at these events, they're taking that learning back home again, which means that they're maintaining their interest and taking some action. And for us, in terms of longer term behaviour change, this is a really important step in making that happen. Rather than just engaging at events, they're doing something and taking that learning back home. In terms of our social media, we've obviously put out a lot around the events and the general work that we're doing sort of through campaigns and individual smaller social media campaigns. The social media about the Dream House itself has reached over 13,000 people so far. That video has had over 2,000 full plays from start to finish, which is great for a video that length. And we have done some social media with smaller bite-sized clips from that as well. That gives us an engagement rate of 1.23%, which doesn't sound very much, but across the terms of social media, anything over 1% is counted as a really good result, but still gives us plenty of room to go and things to work out with our communications that we want to build on. So we're pleased that the engagement's going well there. In terms of... my notes have jumped on without me knowing about it. There we go. Yeah, considering we've only done 2 events so far, we've got really great engagement rates around the Dream House contents, which again shows us that people are interested in it and that this next phase of giving people much more practical hands-on tips about what they can do is going down really well. Some of the comments on social media are great. They're people very positive, asking when it's coming to their area, showing good interest in it, which is really positive. In terms of what's coming up, we've got the remaining Dream House events either booked in or we're working with districts and boroughs to try and get those booked in. So there'll be great events coming up, weather permitting, obviously. We'll have Second Hand September, which is going on this month, and that's a social media campaign getting people to look at reducing and recycling their waste or unwanted items. As Simon mentioned, from paint through to musical instruments, we're encouraging people to pass on things to people who can make use of them. So that campaign's live at the moment. In October, we'll see a focus on Recycling Week, again, social media campaign, and all the districts and boroughs will be tagged in the content that we put out there so that that can really easily be shared by everybody. In the works in development, we're planning our New Year Sustainable Me campaign through into January 2025. And we're also in the process of developing a longer-term 3-year communications plan, which we intend to bring to the board in November for the next meeting. We're hoping to do some good engagement with the officers group so that we can really understand your objectives as a board and make sure that we put those all those objectives into some clear and measurable actions in place so that will help achieve those longer-term ambitions. And having that 3-year plan will allow some of those longer behaviour change shifts that we want to put in through the communications to be picked up. And so that's it in terms of my update. I will do my best to answer any questions, but obviously Dave and James are here if you do have any questions around the communications. And if I can't answer anything today, I will happily take any questions back and get back to you with any answers.
Thank you, Helen, and thank you for standing in the breach at the last minute to present that to us. I think it's a really good example of partnership working when it comes to comms, because this is a Staffordshire Sustainability Board comms plan, and as you've seen, whether it's the carbon bubble or whether it's the new eco house, which will be coming to Tamworth at some stage, weather permitting, of course. I've seen that up at Newcastle. I saw it at the county showground. And a brilliant, really visual example of improvements people can make in their homes to become more energy efficient. So really pleased that the comms plan has really taken off this year, and look forward to that 3 years common plan coming forward to the board later in the year. Tony.
Thank you, Chair. So my first question was going to be where the 2 events been held. So it seems one was at the county showground, so I'd like to know the other one. Secondly, where are the next events planned and when? And the final one is, what's the cost to the districts in terms of hosting this display?
Yes, so Stafford and Burton have been the first 2 events that have taken place. As we noted, Tamworth and the weather put that off. And we've done Newcastle, and that was just last Friday. So they're the 3 that we've done so far. I haven't got the dates for the other districts in front of me, but I can get those to you if needs be.
Okay, I think the point was an extra one in Stafford other than the Staffordshire show, wasn't it? Which we can take that away, and I'm sure that's, unless Davey can update on that.
I can't, I'm afraid. I can answer the third question, Councillor. And so districts and boroughs' contribution is £3,000 a year to the 3-year plan. So it's £3,000 this year.
Nigel.
Yes, just been very conscious of being in the very wet and high north of the county, and a question about its size and resilience. Does it have to be displayed outside? Can it be, put inside a village hall or a town hall, something like that? And the other question, which is something which came up as a criticism, because you always get one, is it possible that when it's transported around, it could be transported around on the back of an electric vehicle and not a diesel truck?
It was transported in an electric vehicle.
Because the carbon bubble wasn't.
So, and we'll work on that, yes, Councillor. Absolutely. What was your first?
The first question is it compatible and can it be displayed in village halls?
It can. Yeah.
Right. What physical size is it?
Or dimensions, Eleanor?
I've not got the dimensions. It's quite large, but it's big enough to fit inside a village hall or something like that. Yeah, it collapses down, and then we've got people that build it on site. We've got the company that come and set it all up for you. I think the idea with it being outside is you get footfall, so you get passing people interested, but noted about the weather and the resilience there. But if it's an indoor event, there's certainly things that we can do to help market it and advertise it, to help draw people in there and get people through. So no concerns about that.
Just the final point, Chair, is it's also helpful to have it as a sequence of displays in amongst other things. So with at the county show, we had it next to the waste presentation by Veolia. So it's really, really useful to have that journey to be able to go around. And it takes a little bit of planning, but with that planning, it can be done inside, outside, and hopefully when it's not raining.
Okay, thank you. And I think I've seen it in its compatible form. It's very compatible to get into a building and then be put up. And I think you're probably going to need skis in the moorlands with the winter coming, Nigel. Probably not listening to me, is he? Sorry. Okay, you'll need skis. Okay, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments, Janice?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. A couple of my questions have already been asked there. I'm pleased to hear that it's been transported on an electric vehicle. I would have thought it would be heavily ironic if it hadn't have been. Just to get clarification on the cost of it. So it's $3,000 for the plan for the year. So that presumably encompasses other things as well, not just the dream house, and that's 3 years. If I can ask...
Sorry, it's 9,000 over 3 years, but we've committed just for the first year. So it's £3,000 for that first year. But the spirit of the commitment over the 3 years would continue at the same rate, and then the comms plan, as we move forward and we get more assets, you'll get more ability to show things within your district or borough.
So may I come in, Chair?
Thank you. Yes, Helen?
Yeah, and it's worth noting for colleagues that the cost of that dream house is in the region of £50,000. So you're getting an excellent return on the investment for that money. It's certainly nothing that any of us could afford to put on individually and having the district. So by having this joint approach to have something on this scale, we can engage a lot more people and, as I say, get a much better return on investment by pooling our resources.
And the same was the case with the carbon bubble as well, which again, we've still got that. It's still an asset we can use. And I think this is not the first year of this comms plan. We're in about the second year of it, isn't it? Whereas we've found funding cocktails for the first couple of years, but now we need to, that has come from joint budgets, hasn't it, in the past? And this is a new proposal to put it on a 3-year footing so we can really look ahead and plan ahead with the comms, because it has such an impact, as we've seen with the carbon bubble, as we are now seeing with the eco house. That sort of putting together a funding allows us to do a lot more than we would be able to do on our own. I think that's an example of it, is that eco house and the cost it would have been if we'd have done it individually. So thank you for that. Sorry.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I've just got a question about the dream house when it comes to the end of its tour. Do we have any plans what's going to happen to it afterwards?
Do you want to take it, Deborah?
Well, we'll update the sections of the dream house. So I think, Elena, it's fair to say that we'll just take a view every year. The actual asset itself is quite a robust construction, isn't it? So it is reusable. So it wouldn't be an asset just for this year. It would be something that we could keep refreshing, and we could also change some of the graphics and the attachments and things like that to it, so we can actually change the themes that we use in future years.
Thank you for that. We'll move on then, because we've got our presentation next at item 4 from the Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Climate Commission. And I'll hand over to Zoe and Julian, whoever's going first.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation to speak to you today. So just by way of introduction, my name's Zoe Robinson. I'm a Professor of Sustainability at Keele University, and I'm one of the co-chairs for the Climate Commission that we'll give you a bit of an update on.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm also co-chair of the Climate Commission. My name is Julian Wolford. I'm also the Chief Executive of Staffordshire Wildlife Trust and on the board of the Wildlife Trust nationally.
Super. So we're going to do things slightly differently. We're going to deviate a little bit from the slides and partly take those as read or readable. And we really wanted to use this time to try and actually have a productive discussion and conversation with you, as well as providing you with a bit more background to the Commission itself. I'm just going to start off with a couple of questions to you. Then Julian will say a bit about what the context, and it's been great to hear about the different elements of sustainability and theme of collaboration in a lot of what you've talked about today that Julian will pick up on and very much relates to the work of the Commission. Then I'll just say a little bit about the background of the Commission for those who aren't familiar with it, and our achievements over the over the last 12 months. And then we want to really sort of end with an offer and an ask, and the opportunity for any questions from you. So it's all right actually to I think remain on this slide just as a backing slide. So my first question to you is it's a hands up. So I realise this might be a bit different for the council chamber, but I'm going to do it anyway. And hands up if you feel confident in what the Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Climate Commission does. Yeah, we'll leave it with that. So hands up if you're confident with what the Climate Commission does. Excellent, that's why we're here. Next question is, who has heard of climate commissions in other parts of the country, their existence? Okay, so a little bit of awareness around these. Okay, so I mean that gives us a good starting point, and what we need to cover. I'm going to pass on to Julian to give a bit of a background to the context and the breadth of what the Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent Climate Commission cover.
Are you going to cover the details?
Yeah, I'll background.
Yeah, I think what was at a really basic level, we came together first as a group of different sectors at an event in Kiel a couple of years ago, and what became apparent was that each of those sectors, whether it was farming or health or broadcasting or local authorities, were all working rather independently and in isolation. And what we wanted to do was to come together on a more regular basis and create this collaborative knowledge exchange forum where we could build new networks, and I'm aware of the fact there are lots of networks, not least local authority networks, so that we could swap ideas and share resources and share best practice and knowledge. And that in its essence is what the Climate Commission has been doing, and to give you a flavour of what that's meant for an organisation like the Wildlife Trust, we've begun to forge stronger relationships, for example, with the National Farmers Union. We have a better relationship with them, I think, as a result of coming together through the forum. But even more current, we're now working more closely with the National Health Service and looking at how we can help them around the health and wellbeing agenda, social prescribing and so forth. So it's begun to open a whole bunch of doors and a whole number of opportunities. I think if you'll bear with me, the one particular thing that I think I particularly wanted to focus on was the role of nature within that, because we're called the Climate Commission. I'm hoping by the beginning of next year we'll be called the Climate and Nature Commission, because recent survey work shows that the majority of the population in this country is aware of the climate crisis that we face, but somewhere in the region of only 50% of people are aware of the biodiversity crisis. And you'll know, I'm sure, because I'm probably working with you, or your colleagues are working, and my colleagues are working with you across the county, and you're doing some great stuff. But we are still one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world, and this is not simply about protecting wildlife for its own sake, although, of course, many of us, and absolutely me, are very passionate about that. It's also because of the wider implications of what will happen if we don't look after nature in terms of food production, water quality, health and well-being, and so forth, not least looking at things like food supply as well. So it's absolutely fundamental that we begin to understand how nature and climate change work together. And of course, climate change, the climate crisis is already impacting nature through wildfires, through invasive species, through flooding, and there are and lots of other impacts as well. But I think the bit that I really wanted to particularly stress within the context of the Commission in today's meeting was also that nature can play an absolutely fundamental part in some of the solutions that we need to the climate crisis. To you'll be obviously familiar with sort of shorter term adaptation type work around, you know, tree planting and the kind of green oasis that you can create in towns and cities in the context of very hot summers and so forth. But I think what's less well known is that nature-based solutions over the next 30 to 40 years are an extremely cost-effective solution to mitigating the worst impacts of climate change and can contribute, based on some studies, up to a third of cost-effective solutions to keep temperatures below dangerous levels, below 2 degrees C. So what that's about is recognising that peatland protection, restoration, woodland protection, restoration, grassland, wetland restoration are all going to be absolutely fundamental in the long term to dealing with the climate crisis that we face. The challenge is that that only kicks in as a benefit once we've done the work, so we have to address that absolutely now as part of the mix. So essentially you can't separate out the nature and climate crisis. It's having an impact on nature, which is bad for all of us, let alone wildlife, but it's also a solution. So we have to sort of begin to see, I think, how nature fits into that, that wider agenda. And things like the local nature recovery strategy, which you're all involved in, and developing off the back of that, and Simon and I were just talking beforehand, you know, we will come up with a strategy in April. It'll be good. I know you're all working on it, but we absolutely have to take away and develop nature plans and have very specific targets and understand how they're interwoven with all of your different plans going forward. And I think, to bring that then back to the Commission, what the Commission has done for me, and I suspect others that take part in the Commission and come to our regular meetings, is it allows me to explain to a broader group of stakeholders that can help us deliver what we need to do, and crucially, get expertise and help and resources and begin to integrate what we're trying to do more effective with plans. So in the case of this afternoon, you know, what I think I'm really passionate about is having an open door policy and understanding that none of us can do things in isolation. We've heard a lot about partnerships already, that we will be at our best if we can join up the way that we work and if we can understand who can offer what. So it's a plea for greater collaboration, greater recognition of how we need to work together.
Thanks, Julian. So, you know, in summary, I think we would now articulate the Commission as a network for knowledge exchange, problem solving, connections and communication, which is totally cross-sector. We've been operating now for over 2 years, and I have to admit that every time we meet, I'm always blown away by the commitment of the people across many different organisations who are still, you know, turning up to meet, to discuss, and seeing that value in learning from people in other organisations and other sectors. So the other organisations which are involved on a very regular basis are the NHS, the NFU, and Julian's already mentioned, you know, a couple of the benefits that just the Wildlife Trust alone have really seen from having that different forum for conversations with those organisations. But also we have a couple of social housing providers, we have the Chamber of Commerce, the County Council's Staffordshire Business and Environment Network, the police, the universities, a number of, so the City Council, we've got a number of community-facing groups. We have the Staffordshire Sustainability Board represented by Simon and Nigel, and we have community energy groups as well. So it starts to, hopefully that gives you a flavour of actually the range of different organisations who are committed to sitting together on a regular basis. And often they're quite honest conversations about what problems people are having, and actually that can be very helpful to hear about what other sectors have done, but also just making people aware about other things which are happening in their sort of part of the world. So the Climate Commission has been formally constituted. It's got terms of reference, which we will be reviewing in early 25. So, we'd really encourage the districts and the boroughs as well to get directly involved. And I think, going into 2025, how's that happened? It'd be really good, I think, to think about how we can start to work in ways which can really help the districts and boroughs with your sustainability responsibilities and work that you're doing. The Commission at the moment, it isn't funded. We really just work through our own jobs, seeing it as part of our jobs. We could do with some funding for some secretarial support and are sort of looking at avenues for that. And we've been running over the past couple of years a series of knowledge exchange meetings, so bringing in expertise within the organisations represented. We've had people talking about sustainability communications, around social housing decarbonisation, around 15-minute cities, around community energy. We've had site visits and looking at regenerative agriculture. Also, as a group, we're very well positioned to bring in external speakers as well. So, actually, collectively, we can think, well, who do we want to hear from? And we can bring those in. So we're now meeting every 2 months, embedding these knowledge exchange sessions into the first sort of 30 minutes of an hour and a half meeting. And the rest of the meeting is around sort of updates around different projects. We have managed to use the Commission to leverage additional external funding for a particular activity. So, for example, there's a project led by Staffordshire County Council that Kiel is involved in, which is looking at understanding the supply chain and skills pathway needs through to 2050 across Staffordshire. And part of the application process involved us saying, we have this established network, we are used to working in this cross-sector way. And that always lands very well with funders. In 2025, we've got a couple of events lined up already. So our sort of more in-person interactions are through specific events. So we'll be running a Green Educators Forum to both start to address more the skills agenda, but also to think about how our education institutions, particularly our colleges and universities, can work outside of the education sectors and help sort of bridge across different sectors there. And we're also going to be running an event around diversity and sustainability, because we realise as a Commission that we are not very diverse in any way. And actually within sustainability, that's a really important issue. The sustainability sector is the least diverse sector, the second least diverse sector in the UK next to agriculture. And actually we as sustainability professionals need to acknowledge that, and we need to think about how we address that in our work. And so the event that we'll be running next year will aim to start to raise those conversations and thinking. We also are starting in the Commission to develop some specific sort of working groups. The event on diversity will really launch a diversity working group, and we have an existing energy working group as well, again, which brings a different sector perspectives to that. So I think that hopefully, if I ask the question now of, are you aware of what the Commission does, you would all confidently raise your head. In terms of the question of how to engage, we have sort of formal representation from the Sustainability Board, from Chair and Vice Chair, but equally there is that real invitation for the districts and boroughs to engage directly, whether that's through members or officers. And we realise that for different districts and boroughs, that might look very different. And so really it's an invitation to reach out to myself, Julian. We also have Kate Copeland and Judith Smith on the leadership group. I think in 2025 we would really like to have a local authority member as part of that leadership group to make sure that the work is very integrated into how local authorities work. And one thing I would just say that there's probably about 10 other climate commissions that I know of in different areas of the UK. And all of those that I know of have local authorities members as part of the sort of the leadership structure. And we know that a number of areas, local authorities are very actively trying to set up this network because they see the value for their work. And I think, it's an invitation to say we have this network of really committed people across sectors. How can we sort of really take that to the next level to support local authorities in their work? So it's a question to you to really help us, any questions now, but also an invitation to say how you think that the Commission can work with you in your roles, and what would you need and like from the Commission. Anything from you, Julian, before we pass it?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zoe. And for me, I was involved in that first meeting, wasn't it? Kiel, 2 years ago, COP22, wasn't it, with the globe above us.
End of 2021.
It's a long time ago. And I've been really keen to be involved, and I was during the interim period. And then obviously we took through the Sustainability Board a year or so ago now to be a member via SSB, but as you say, for districts and boroughs to make their own links through to Climate Commission as they see fit. I think also plans for the future. I think one of the things I'd probably like to see is and a question back to you, is more engagement with the public, isn't it? Because I think if you asked, people on the streets what Climate Commission meant to them, those two questions you posed at the beginning, Zoe, they wouldn't know anything about it, would they? They wouldn't have a clue. I think it's really key. But for me, it's that cross-sector working that I think is of benefit from the Climate Commission. And we've seen that in other areas where they've had them, haven't they? And I'm fully behind it and will continue to attend as and when I can. And Nigel is my sort of vice on there as well to help you along the way to do that. And I think it's really, really key that we do work with other partners, whether that be business, health, the farming community, are all partners taking the same route as us and on the same course to try and get to net zero in their particular sector. So I think working together on a Climate Commission basis is the key thing. I'd like to pay tribute to both of you who are sitting here today, because you have your full-time jobs outside of this and you've given a lot of time up to guide the Commission so far to where it is. And I think interesting to see other members' views on the presentation you've just given and any views back. Tony.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. I wondered if Staffordshire is a large and diverse county, more so than many. And I wondered if you'd thought about the possibility of having groups below county level, looking at different areas, maybe even looking at the districts themselves. Because particularly, for example, in business, there are businesses located in specific areas and perhaps wouldn't be so keen on getting involved in a county-wide discussion, but would be perhaps interested in discussing things at a local level. So I just throw that out as an idea. Having said all of that, I think I haven't discussed this with colleagues at Stafford Borough, but I think we'd be interested in becoming more involved in what you're doing. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. And scale is always an interesting question, and what scale is most effective? I think, and I think this maybe comes to your point about sort of engagement with the public directly as well. And within the Commission, there's a number of other groups, so things like Climate Matters Staffordshire, which works very directly with the public. and support Staffordshire as well, which supports sort of community organisations. So it's really, the Commission is really an organisation which brings different organisations together, some of whom are very direct, sort of public facing. And I suppose the Commission as it is tends to bring together those county scale organisations, which is why it operates at that, so Staffordshire and Stoke-on-Trent. But there is absolutely value in place-based work and place-based networks at smaller scales. And, certainly I think that the Commission, could look to support, have conversations at the district borough scale around learning from our county scale, which could be useful at those more local scales.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, we have to work at a local level. I think, just coming from the Wildlife Trust point of view, we kind of work nationally, but we can also work very locally at a grassroots level, especially with the number of 20,000 plus members that we have. I think that to go back to the local nature recovery strategy, which you'll all be familiar with, that will be, as I said earlier, delivered, and I think it'll be a good piece of work in April, but it's useless unless you develop a plan for nature in each of the local authorities with a set of targets. And we don't want to get lost in strategies and targets. I think we also need to have really tangible projects. I've been talking to State, for example, in their centenary year about, what are the 2 or 3 things we could actually do to show a difference around that agenda. And of course, as we talked about earlier, nature and climate are connected. So I think if we could all think about what the plans are next year, what particularly tangible quick wins we could achieve, that would be great. The other thing I think that has really come to the fore just for the Wildlife Trust, but I think you've all experienced it probably in different ways, and Simon's obviously rightly talking about the public, is the sort of community engagement model. So traditionally, conservation organisations like the Wildlife Trust have been very top-down, and what we're now moving towards is where we're sort of acting as catalysts and facilitating action and going into communities, for example, in Stafford, the wilder neighbourhood model, and we're actually saying, what do you want to happen locally? What do you want to see happen? What are the options? And that, it has to be the right way forward. It has to be the right way with building understanding and awareness and getting the behaviour change. So that community engagement thing underpinning those plans and targets and extending that, it is nature and climate, I think is absolutely central and 100% what we should be doing.
Thank you, Julian. Nigel.
Could I just sort of add just to say, if I look at what other commissions have done in other parts of the country as well, they've supported local authorities with citizen juries, with survey research, and actually also with some of that direct sort of public engagement. So it can be part of what Commission does. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. That early opening comment, collaborative knowledge exchange forum, that's the phrase I was trying to think of myself when I was introducing what the Staff Sustainability Board did. Because that actually empowers people and removes hesitancy. There's an awful lot, and I'm talking from the Sustainability Board point of view, as individual districts, boroughs, city council, we'll have all come up with ideas, and in some respects, apart from the odd Google search and apart from the odd soundbite from usually The Guardian or something like that, we've come up with this idea in isolation, and you're thinking, is that the right idea to run with it? Is that the priority idea to run with it? And it's only when you get together as a collective that you realise that there's a lot of commonality of thought, a lot of commonality of ideas, and what that does, that empowers people to get on and do it. One of the things which I've noticed as an evolution is looking at the reports from individual district boards over the last couple of years or so, and they were quite disparate at the start, but there's a lot of very common themes, and there's a lot of push to actually do things and getting things, not just think about this is what we're going to do, this is what we are doing. And now it's a case of you're doing that in respect parallel, mirrored to what we're doing as outside agencies. And when you're talking to farmers who can be quite, by the fact that farmers are surrounded by acres of fields, and they tend to go to one marketplace or have one set of customers who are delivering to, and quite mono thought in that respect. Having that empowerment that each of them have got different problems. And I understand totally what you say about the diversity of the county, but there's also the commonality of the county. We all have problems with energy infrastructure, we all have problems with low quality housing from an energy efficiency point of view. We all have problems with the adaptation strategy, flooding and nature depletion. The problems of the county are communication, transport communication. And I think what's important is a lot of the things to do with this are driven from the big centres of population, the big centres of learning. Obviously, Kiel is the ideal place to locate things associated with Stoke-on-Trent big centre. If you could move around the county more, you know, where there's a forum, you know, towards the south of the county, obviously towards the east of the county, there's an event going on Friday, which is Utoxeter Racecourse, but there's always been that North Staffordshire, South Staffordshire. There's really the North Staffordshire, East Staffordshire and South Staffordshire from a point of view of where you need to locate things. So whether there is a place south of Stafford, is there a place south of Stafford? I don't know. But I think that's important. And the other thing which is important, which is something which Simon pulled up on, is in some respects we all preach to the converted. We all in some kind of bubble. Okay, we've all got that drive and that commitment and that enthusiasm to burst through that bubble and almost impose things on people because we know best. We don't always know. We've got to win hearts and minds, and we've got to get to those parts of the community who are more concentrating on the impacts on family after COVID, the cost of living crisis. Everything's interlinked. And if we can get climate change and sustainability right, that actually improves, as Julian said, everybody's lot with health and well-being. You know, something which we're doing at Staffordshire Moors District Council on the DFG grants is we're not just doing the home adaptations for a disability, we're looking at the home comfort and welfare and insulation upgrades, because if you're in a warm and comfortable house, you're going to feel better as a person, which meets the climate change criteria as well. You know what I mean? And it's that dissemination of that idea which is important to me.
Thank you, Nigel. I'm going to bring, obviously, Zoe and Julian in, obviously, to answer that question, also make your closing remarks, as we'll then move on to our last item on the public agenda. Okay, who's first? Zoe or Julian?
I mean, really just, you know, to thank you for the invitation to speak to you today, and we'll make sure that our contact details are easily available to you if you just like to have a follow-up conversation around how involvement might look for you.
Yeah, just to reiterate the invitation to join, to have a local authority representative on the leadership board, because I think that will then get the integration right. So if we could trial that at least, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
And I hope this session is, obviously this is a public meeting, these slides are available, and if anybody who's watching, wants to check that on the County Council's website underneath this video box that's popped up, you will see the Climate Commission's presentation, and I think that could be start of a more of a public awareness, particularly across, as Nigel said, the southern part of the county, which I know through attending meetings of the Climate Commission since the site was set, we've been concerned about that sort of south of Stafford, haven't we, sort of? And I know you're both aware of that, and hopefully this will help us to move it in the right direction. Thank you again. We'll move on to our last item for the public agenda meeting, which is item 5, which is performance update. Performance is really important as we move forward on this process. And every meeting of the Sustainability Board, we have the performance update, and we have a sustainability performance update and a waste performance update. And I'm going to ask Ilka now just to take us through the sustainability side update and then also the waste from Kay afterwards. Ilka first.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Just a brief update. Our performance on the sustainability side gets measured against the 10 pledges that every single member of this board has committed themselves to. So I'm really pleased to say we made quite good progress over the last year, but also over the last 3 months. We have no longer any red pledges, so we are on task for every single one of our pledges. It's this time of year when everybody is due to prepare their reports for the annual carbon report. And I'm pleased to say everybody is on track with that as well. So that's really good, because it's an awful lot of work getting all the carbon reporting in on time and through cabinets. We made quite a significant progress especially on pledges around green energy, our pledge number 6, where again the majority of our districts and boroughs are either green or on track to be green. And also around pledge number 10, which is the Innovation and Technology Pledge, which is also very good to see that all of the districts and boroughs are actively engaging with outside organisations and businesses to move forward there. That's all from me, thank you.
And Kate.
Hello everybody, just to provide a quick update on the waste data. This is the data that is submitted to Waste Data Flow every quarter. So we're looking here at quarter 4 for 23-24. You will see in the first table that we still have a gap for South Staffordshire District Council and Staffordshire County Council. That's due to those returns not being provided to Waste Data Flow because of staffing issues. As a result, the next table, which is annualised data, cannot be updated for 23-24 yet, but as soon as that comes through, I will be able to update that. All of this data will go into the strategy, which, as I'm sure you are aware, I'm currently writing, and I've compiled to date so far what I have, comparing it to the UK averages and the targets that are out there, and we are completely on par with our neighbours in other parts of the UK. So if you see any of the figures and you are concerned, we are completely regular for a local authority across the UK. You will notice as well that quarter 4 figures highlight the seasonal dip that we get in garden waste tonnages. So our recycling rates are always traditionally a little bit lower in quarter 4 because it's winter, it's January to March. So the garden waste tonnage does decrease during that time period. So that explains why recycling rates are a little bit lower in quarter 4.
Thank you, Kate, and thank you, Ilka. I think if, obviously, we didn't have the performance data on screen there, but again, as I said earlier, the agenda underneath has the what would you call them, Excel sheets and the lists, etc., relating to performance. So if people want to drill down into that, people who are watching, please do so. And of course, contact your district portfolio holder or the city portfolio holder or myself on a county-wide basis for any further information on those indicators. So that concludes the public part of our meeting. Thank you to Julian and Zoe for coming along, and thank you for the public watching this, of course, and we intend to have another public meeting in a few months' time to update the county residents and city residents further on this exciting agenda, an agenda we have to implement because of the climate emergency which we have. And I think you will have seen that we're making good progress as districts, boroughs and cities working together for the benefit of our residents, and that can be seen in the agenda items we've seen today. But I will move the exclusion of the public for the rest of the agenda, and we'll end the live broadcast. Thank you.